plastic surgery training in 2002. I was the mother of 2 children. I was secretly pregnant with my third. There were not very many women in surgery, and I knew that because of my family, I wanted to stay in Houston and have the family support that I knew I would need to grow my business. So when I spoke to a few colleagues to see if they were interested in hiring a young plastic surgeon, there were not many doors that opened. So out of necessity, I started my practice.
I'm sure we all can identify with challenges like that where you're looking for that big break and that opportunity and talking about that table. Sometimes you got to make your own table, and we're so glad that you did. What has been the biggest lesson that you learned on your journey of 20 years in business?
There's been so many lessons to learn, but I think that the reality is you never stop. You never stop dreaming, working, striving, achieving, and it takes vision and reflection and continuing kind of evaluation and growth. But I think most importantly, it starts with a vision and a passion, and that you never lose sight of that vision, and it's important to be your authentic brand and know who you are and where you want to go. You don't have to have all the details, but just a general idea. I remember as a child, we did not have cell phones or social media. We had 3 channels that went off at a certain time, and it was and you went to bed. And what did we do? We dreamed. And I mean, like awake dreaming and asleep dreaming, but I would sit there and dream about my life. And I think that sometimes we have so much noise with other people's dreams and other people's lives or what they're trying to reflect on social media, etc., that it can drown out our internal voices and what our dreams are. So it is important for you to dream about who you want to be and dream big. I didn't dream this, but I just dreamt about what I wanted to be and what type of person I wanted to be. And it was a lot easier when you didn't have all this outside noise.
Yeah. So I know that sometimes the glitz and the glam of our professions and our careers dictate what people perceive, but I'm really curious. Take us through a typical day. Like what, and I want to give you a minute to think about that, because balancing all the things, motherhood, family, friends, business, and yourself, right? Take us through a typical day of what that might look like for you, because I'm asking this question because I think that sometimes we wear many hats and we feel overwhelmed sometimes, and I think it's important for us to understand what that journey looks like for someone else. So take us through that.
So every Wednesday, everybody in my family and most of my friends know what I'm doing. Wednesday, I'm in my office seeing patients all day long. The other days I'm in surgery, etc. So this Wednesday, I'm on the board of directors for St. Agnes Academy, where my daughters attended school, so that was at 7:30. I then left and went straight to the office and started seeing patients. At the end of that day, I had to call a colleague about a particular situation. Then I was late for a 7:30 committee meeting with the Aesthetic Society, of which I'm on the board. And then I went at 8:30 to meet one of my Alpha Sands from Howard University, who was in town, and I spent about 30 minutes with him and his wife, and then I went home. And on the way home, kind of each step during the day, I was checking with my son to make sure he was doing what he needed to do, 19, but you know. And occasionally I get interrupted by the 22-year-old who's in medical school who wants to tell me about dissecting a heart, like I've never done that. But I get her embroiled in passion, and then at some point I check in with my husband just to let him know where I am. Yeah. And then I get home about 10:30.
Wow. So I know that we've talked a lot about, business and family, but I want to talk about building teams. So being in business for 20 years is incredible, but I know that you can't do it alone.
No.
So talk to us, how many team members do you have? And what goes into, for you, identifying the right person to join your team? Because our businesses are our babies, and we want to make sure that we're hiring the right people that are going to operate with integrity. So how large is your team, and how do you vet and make sure that they are the right fit, culture fit, all the things?
So I have about 7 staff members in the office, and 3 consultants and part-timers. So that is one of the biggest challenges, is building your team. And they don't teach you anything about business or any of these things in medical school. And I think that it really goes back to understanding who you are and what your vision is, and trying to align yourself with people who share that. And trust me, you will make mistakes, because sometimes, and this is a lesson that I learned, being a doctor, you know, I have gone to college and medical school and 5 years of general surgery residency. I did 5 years of hard labor doing something that I didn't want to do, but I knew that I had to do 5 years of hard labor to get to the next thing, which was plastic surgery. So I'm this goal-oriented, type A driven person, and you're like, yeah, let's go. And you meet people along the way, they're like, yeah, let's go. And then you're like running, and they're like, yeah. Like, yeah, let's go. And they're like, yeah, oh yeah, I want to get there with you. But they don't always share your same passion. And it's hard, but I think when you just understand your vision and you just continuously put things out there, interview people. Right now, we take a very long time to hire new staff members, because we want to make sure that we have a person that's going to fit into our culture. But the other thing that I did was I did a lot of jobs. So if I can't find the right staff, I took on some of those responsibilities, especially in the beginning when I was growing and I maybe had a little bit more time to actually answer my own telephone. I would call my own patients, I would schedule appointments, I would do all my bills, I still do write all my checks. And
I'm sure we all can identify with that. We are HR, accounting, the nurse, all things.
So it can be a slow process. And then there were times when I was like, I just need somebody just kind of like me. And I was like, but I can't afford to pay me and another me.
Been there.
You know, it's hard. It's challenging, but I think the networking opportunities are so much greater now with social media. There's pros and cons to the whole social media thing, but expanding your reach, and sometimes giving somebody a chance that you may not think will fit is also a good lesson.
All right, speaking of lessons and thinking forward, what can we expect from you in the next 3, 5, 10 years? What does that look like?
So this year, 20th anniversary, I'm launching my own private skincare line. So it's focusing on, healthy skin for patients of all skin types, but specifically dealing with hyperpigmentation and challenges that patients of color we continuously have issues with. Sometimes products aren't built for our skin or don't understand the needs of our skin. So that's number one. Number two is I'm going to open my own accredited surgical operating suite in my office.
Wow.
And then potentially adding and expanding, scaling the practice by adding new talent.
That's incredible. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us. We really appreciate you being here. I know that you're busy, but we really appreciate you coming and sitting in the hot seat with me and sharing how you've been able to scale your business for 20 years and counting. So give it up for Dr. Camille Cash.